All right, Joe Silverstein, let me hit you with that fact. So, France didn't stop executing people with the guillotine until 1977.
That's a vicious fact.
That is horrible. Imagine in the 70s, like you're in the US and you're going through the hippie movement. You're on LSD and then all of a sudden you see on the news that France is fucking just decapitating people's heads.
That's crazy. That's pretty crazy. I didn't know it was up until that recently that they did that, but
Yeah,
that's a
no,
crazy thing.
that's rough. I would hate to be in that. Okay. So,
I don't think
anyway.
anyone would want to be in it, but
Anyway, let's get to the journal prompt for today. So this was inspired by the book that I'm reading. It's called A New Earth, and it's talking more about like the moments in your life. So the journal prompt today is, how do you live in the present moment but also care for the future? Once again, how do you live in the present moment but also care for the future? I'll give you guys a minute. If you want to skip ahead, go ahead, but try to think for a minute about this question before we start. Okay, Joe Silverstein. So, how do you live in the present moment but also care for the future? I know this is a loaded question, but that is every single question that we have on this podcast. It's very entertaining.
it's definitely like I would say somewhat of a paradox, but it's an interesting one. I would say that you have to think about it for a second. It's one of those things. You have to love what you do, but it has to be productive, I would say.
So that's a funny thing that you said productive, because I literally just did a podcast all about the word productive. Like, what does it mean to you? Because my thing was, a few hundred years ago, if you weren't productive, you're dead. So nowadays, if you're not productive, you literally just go home, watch some Netflix, and
Right.
chill in bed.
Yeah,
that's
right.
fine. You got your little job. You go to your job. You come home. Everything else is fine. You could order food. You don't have to do much. But nowadays, it's so much easier than it used to be. So probably like 50 years ago, that's when the word productive like really started, when people were able to have like a lot of free time. So the word productive is a little strange in that aspect. So as you say, like, as long as you're productive, that's cool, because my conclusion with that word productive was mainly, if you're enjoying what you're doing in that time, then I think you're being productive, even if it is watching some TV in your spare time, even if it is trying to do a little side hustle, because as long as you're enjoying it, like, that's really what the world is about today.
I think it definitely depends. I think if you're talking about a side hustle or exercise, then you could say that's productive. But if you're talking about somebody becoming an alcoholic because they enjoy it, there's limits to it. That's why it's such a tricky question, right?
Okay, I like that.
There's certain, like, it's an open question, but I would say there definitely are edges where, I would say, how do you what is it basically like orient yourself towards the future while enjoying the present? That's like the gist of it.
It's how do you live in the present moment but also care for the future? Because I've been kind of struggling with this lately too, because my thing was, when I was growing up, all I cared was the future. That's all I cared about. Like, all right, when you go to middle school, you got to worry about your high school. Then when you're in high school, you got to worry about your grades, but you also got to worry about trying to find what college is next. And then when you're in college, whatever is next after that. And you're not living in the present moment, and that was my problem in college. I couldn't live in the present moment. I was always doing work and then going to class, and that's really it.
And it's like, when do I get home?
Exactly. I didn't have time to, like, have fun and enjoy myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because also I did have a lot of work and I wasn't understanding everything. So you do have to put in that extra time and effort. But when you're not living in the present, then are you really living at all?
Yeah, that's a fair question. Well, you definitely have to enjoy what you're doing. I would say that if you're living in the present and you're working a 9-to-5 job that you hate, then that's not really much of a life. Unless you have to keep that 9-to-5 job for a brief period of time while you're figuring out what else you're going to do.
Fine, yeah.
That's that being said, I think that there is the question of I think there's two things that make this question complicated, right? The first one is that living in the moment means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I love economics. I love government. I love current events. So living in the moment could be reading a hardcover book from Adam Tooze about the financial crisis of 2008. For most people, I don't think that's living in the moment
Which
too
is
much.
fine because you're reading a book and like it's more of the fact that like this question really relates to me because like all I kept thinking was the future. And you could think about the future as much as you want, but if you're not enjoying the book in that moment, if you're reading it in like like what are these called, the
Quotation marks?
Whatever, quotation marks. I know nobody could see me right now, I'm so dumb. So like
Quote unquote reading it. There we go.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, if you're not really reading it and you're not living in that book in that moment, and half of your mind is like, okay, like, even though I'm reading this book, it's good for me. What am I doing in the future? What is going on? And like that's the type of living in the present, because people could look like they're living in the present. You could look like you're living in the present just walking down the street, but in your mind, you're not saying like, oh man, it's a really nice day out, like look at all the birds just flying around. In your mind, you're like, oh man, if I don't get that essay done, my future is over.
Yeah, that's true. I think that you have to strike a balance between discipline and freedom. You have to strike a balance in your life between some type of order and some type of, for lack of a better term, chaos. You don't want everything to be structure, because then things get really boring. We're human beings.
I was thinking about structure today.
You go ahead. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, structure is so weird because I feel like everything in life that we're doing, everyone expects there to be structure. And there are so many things now, like obviously you go get a job, you go to your boss, and your boss tells you everything. But we're now in this day and age where now you don't really have structure. And that's kind of college too. College isn't structure at all. College is you go to class, you go back. You had a 2-hour lecture today. That's it. And you need some of that structure in your life for yourself to get past it. And you got to make your own structure, which there's not like a rule book. Everyone thinks structure is just a rule book, but it's really not.
Right.
There's not a step for everything.
Right.
You got to figure it out on your own, but also enjoy the process as well.
Right.
If you don't enjoy it, then it sucks.
For sure. I think that I guess one of the dimensions we could add too is how do you live in the present without going too much towards the future, but also the past, because there's plenty of people that are stuck in the past. It's like they did great things 10 years ago. You see it a lot with athletes, and there hasn't been anything since, and that's not a great thing either.
Yeah, like those people who live their lives from high school.
Some people live their lives from high school.
It's funny, yeah, because like I mean, you see it in movies and TV shows and stuff like that where they talk about like how they were when they were younger. They're like, oh man, when I was your age, like I was captain of the team and blah blah blah.
Right.
And you're like, all right, so what did you do since? And they're like, oh, I'm working and stuff.
A few Coronas.
Pays the bills. I have a few kids of my own that do the same thing that I did. And you're like, well, you didn't really create a fun life, an exciting life for yourself. It sounds like what you're just living off is just your memories of what you did.
Yeah. Well, you definitely want to be careful of that. And I think that's a trap that we could all fall into, right? I think that if you look at people's lives, they kind of have these almost like if it's a good life, I would say you kind of have these roller coasters where it's like certain peaks and then certain plateaus. And, it's definitely an interesting thing. But one of the things too is it kind of goes back to it is, I guess it's easy for people to look at something great that they did in the past and then want to take the foot off the gas and kind of take a break. And like that's one of those things where I guess you could say they're living in the present, right? Like you almost see it a lot with fighters. Like take for example Conor McGregor. A big fan of Conor McGregor, and he's returning in 2 weeks, and hopefully he wins, and I think he will. I think it'll be a first-round knockout. But that being said, though, Conor McGregor was on top of the world 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Knocked out Jose Aldo, a guy who hadn't been beaten in 10 years, moved up 2 weight classes, wrecked Nate Diaz in the rematch, became a 2-time world champion, fought Floyd Mayweather, the greatest boxer of all time, really blew up hundreds of millions of dollars, whiskey company, all these things. But then
Wait, how old is he?
He's like 32 only.
And that's the prime of a fighter's career.
Of a fighter. And, unfortunately, we really lost the last 2 years of his prime because of the fact that he got all these successes, and then it became people celebrating him when he was partying and doing things he wasn't supposed to do, and fighting old men and smashing phones and throwing things at buses. And I think like the case could be made that would be what we would describe, quote unquote, as like living in the present, is the fact that he is enjoying his life and enjoying his success. But it's like then like you wake up 2 years later, and when you're enjoying yourself, Khabib has risen and mauls Conor McGregor, and now he's kind of back in the state of mind where it's the consistency again. So I think that's the balance you have to strike. Is you definitely want to, and I think I have the problem where I don't smell the roses all the time. I think sometimes it's just go, go, go. So you definitely want to stop and smell the roses and give yourself, like, for example, this is like my winter break now. So it's like, all right, like now I'm still doing things. I'm still, keeping busy with things that I feel are useful and healthy. But at the same time, I want to make sure I relax a little bit too, because I know the next 6 months are going to be crazy. But you want to have a balance between appreciating things and definitely taking them in, but not going off that deep end, I would say.
Yeah, it's tough to find that balance, especially in Conor's perspective. He's always been this guy that's been the underdog. Like, he started off his UFC career as the underdog, and he had to work his way all the way up to that point. So the thing that my boss told me, which was amazing, he's like, you don't realize how young you are. Like, slow down with your career right now. Have fun. Do all that dumb shit that 20-year-olds do, because when you're on top, what else you got to work for? You made it. What are you going to do after that? So that's why, like, I feel like everyone is just rushing everybody. Every adult is just, I just feel like it's just rush you into society and everything like that. But there's no point. Like, you have all that backup. You have all of your friends and family that will help you out if you really need them to help you out. So, and then you also spoke about balance, which I love. Balance is all mental. Like, yeah, physically you could be balanced on both sides of your body. You could hold you up on one foot at a time. But mentally, if you are not balanced, then the rest of your body is like shutting down, basically, because you don't have that sense of, all right, like, I just fought a really big fight. Let me go out tonight. Let me take the next 2 days off, have some fun, and then come back, recuperate, and then go back at it. And you need that sense of having fun, because when life is not fun and you get to the top, then you want to have all the fun in the world. And it's impossible to do that. You just always constantly have to be improving yourself, but also having fun.
I agree, and I think it also, a lot of it depends on whether or not you truly enjoy what you do for a living, right? Because you see so many people stuck in jobs, like maybe it's an accountant who really hates accounting. I know plenty of people with accounting degrees that they're like, yeah, like, I don't really like this, I got into it, but like, whatever. Or you could have a doctor who really loves being a doctor, or an artist who paints who really loves being a painter, or an author who really enjoys writing books. And to them, their process is fun. And I think that's really the best, is when you could find something that you love that you would do if you weren't paid for it, and you happen to get paid for it. I think that's really the best thing. But I mean, finding that for a lot of people takes time. That's not necessarily the easiest thing to find. And I think that we do live in a society where everyone has to go to college and everyone has to finish within 4 years, and there is a little bit of a rush to it, and a lot of people end up in jobs that they don't necessarily want to be in, and then they're not even that good at, to be honest with you. I've worked in different places, and I'm not going to name any names, but at AM 970, there were at least 1 or 2 people who were really rather miserable people who it was like very difficult to work with. I didn't work with them closely, so if anyone is listening from AM 970, and if you think it's you, it's probably not. He's probably not listening to the podcast. But, very, very difficult to work with, and, just not, like, visibly not happy, and everything's an attitude and a problem, and, there's no solution. Pitbull says there's no problems, only solutions. In this case, it was the opposite. There were no solutions. There were only problems. So, it's definitely something to keep in mind. You have to like what you do, and I think it's easier to live in the present if you do like what you do.
I think even if you like what you do, it's tough. Because I'm still in that boat. Like, I love what I do, but to find that balance for me is very hard because when you're enjoying yourself, sometimes when you're enjoying yourself, you're like, oh, am I enjoying myself too much? Am I not grinding as much as I used to? Because, at some point in your life, it happens to everybody where they get that entrepreneurial aspect in them and they just go for it. And they every single day, they're on it. They're doing whatever they need to do. And then one day, they're like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. And that break feels so good. And it feels too good to them that they keep doing it over and over.
Yeah.
And even if you love it, like, you could lose the love of what you actually love. Like, for example, with basketball for me, I love basketball. But I didn't love it at some point. Like, when I was on Tottenville for varsity, I didn't love it anymore. I almost hated it at that point because I couldn't play how I used to play. I didn't get to have that fun. It was too serious after a while.
You think the competition level got to the point where it was almost like a job, you're saying? Or is it?
Yeah, exactly. But it wasn't really like, I mean, I love being competitive and stuff like that. And I really think it was just my coaches, and I didn't like the coaches. I didn't like the vibe of the team either.
Should we name drop anybody, or we shouldn't name drop anybody?
Yeah, fuck Woodman, bro.
Oh, it was Woodman was the coach.
Fuck Woodman, bro. He sucked the whole life out of the whole organization of Tottenville basketball.
So what happened with Woodman? Because I really didn't know Woodman. I had a weird relationship with him because when I was running for my re-election campaign, I remember he would used to just give me problems over things that he really shouldn't have given me problems over, like when I was campaigning in the cafeteria and, like, people would chant, like, Silverstein, and he would, like, get mad at me and, like, go to Miss T. And, I mean, I'm not knocking him, At the end, we ended up with a pretty decent, I wouldn't say relationship, but at the end, by the time I graduated, we were cool, like, hi, bye. When I came back to visit the school once, he came over and said hello. So,
like a surface level type of relationship?
I wouldn't say a relation. Like, we're good. Like, I don't have any beef with him, but I do see where he would have beef with people. I do see how he has that way about him that would, quote unquote, suck the life out of a program. Maybe
it's all favoritism. That's what it was. It was all favoritism. I remember when I made the team. I honestly didn't want to make the team because I was like, when I finished sophomore year of basketball, I would always go with my friend to his brother's game for CYO, and they all played high school basketball, but they quit. They were like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, it's not fun. And I saw them, and I was like, this looks so much more fun than what I'm doing in high school. So I think I might just try to not make the team. But because I was a better player the previous years, and even though, like, my tryout wasn't that great, they still took me. And I remember in the beginning, like, I was doing really well. Like, I was playing great in practice, and I was even in the paper where it was like, hey, like, we have our seniors, but like,
advanced?
yeah, but like, cool. Woodman was talking about it. He's like, yeah, a few guys off the bench, and my name was in the article, and I was like, oh shit, like, that's awesome.
Right.
And I was playing well and stuff like that, and then after a while, like, I just started riding the bench more often than not because I don't know. I guess it was just more like, hey, we'll play you next year. Like, you're only a junior, so I was like, okay, fuck it, whatever. And then senior year came, and the first game we had, like, I was playing really well, but we had so this kid, Nick Corbett, he was insane. He went to Farrell.
Is he related to Matthew Corbett?
Yes, that's what I'm getting to. So
gotcha.
Nick Corbett was an animal. Like, no one was better than him at basketball on Staten Island at this point. And, like, he just went to college, and now his brother transferred from Farrell into Tottenville.
That's right, I saw that.
And he's a good player.
Yeah.
I'm not
not
knocking
like the
him
brother,
at all.
though?
No,
Okay.
not even close.
Gotcha.
Yeah, his brother was just insane. But Matt was good, too. Matt was a very good ball player. And the first few tryouts, like, he would show up sometimes. He wouldn't show up. He would just be, like, lazy when he played. But he showed signs that he would be really good, so they took him. And it kind of pissed me off because I was like, yo, I came to everything that you wanted me to come to. And, like, I busted my ass, and you're just going to take him because he's really talented. And, like, he shows no discipline. So they took him on the team, and during like the first few games, like I was playing, and then all of a sudden he just took my playing time because he was a little bit more talented than me. But I was the person who like really, I felt like when I was in the game, I was that guy who kind of like controlled everybody. Like everyone has an ego, and everyone wants to play with their ego, and no matter what situation, if it's sports, if it's schoolwork, if it's work, like anything if possible. But when people play with their ego, they want to take every shot. They want the ball all the time. And I was the person that was like, I don't need the fucking ball all the time. I can just stand around sometimes and chill. Like, I like defense a lot. That was really my thing. So, like, when I was in there, I felt like I was a good balance to everybody. I would share the ball, and whoever wanted the ball more, I would give them the ball a little bit more. But after a while, even the kids that were, like, really good that played, they weren't playing that well, and I still didn't get any playing time. So, it was kind of bullshit after a while. Like,
Now, do you think you had beef with Woodman that made him bench you, or you just...
No, not at all. I was honestly like, me and like Matt Fiorenza, we were like super quiet. Like, we respected everybody. We did nothing wrong, and like we never got playing time. Everyone else was like loud and stuff like that. Not saying like they weren't good kids, but sometimes they would cause a little bit more trouble, a little bit more, you know how like in the locker room, that's something that nobody talks about, even in professional sports. And that will rile up a little bit with like the rest of the team. So I would always try to keep my cool and calmness in the locker room. And I just felt like I never really got a good opportunity. And after a while, I didn't even want an opportunity, honestly. I was like, I'm fine with just showing up to practice, doing what I do all the time, and then just sitting at the games, because I had more fun just chilling with my teammates on the end of the bench than actually playing the game, because every single time I would go in, if I made a mistake, I would get yanked right away. Like, I had a very, very short leash compared to other players.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's an interesting thing for sure. I remember, Corbett was on the student government of IS-34 with me, and I remember, Corbett's a good guy. Like, I'm not knocking Corbett, but he was a little bit like inconsistent with that too, where he would sometimes show up, sometimes wouldn't, and it is what it is. I mean, to each their own. I don't really know.
Yeah, and he never held people accountable like that.
Woodman, you mean?
Yeah. Woodman would never hold anybody accountable. There was one game, so you know Joe McCoy, right?
Yes, Joe McCoy, I do know. I know Joe McCoy.
So there was one game, like, he is definitely not the brightest kid ever, and like he got away with so much shit, and we were versing Neudorp at Neudorp, and I was there, and he wasn't. And I was like, all right, let's see who starts. And they called me for the start. And I was like, all right, like, I don't even play. What the fuck? Why am I starting? So I started, and, like, we were playing well. Like, everyone was playing well together. I missed one shot, but that's all I really took. And then once Joe McCoy showed up, yanked me within, like, 4 minutes, and then I didn't play the rest of the game.
Oh, so he put McCoy on as opposed to you.
Yeah, he took me right out of the game.
So was it basically like the repeated... like, I don't want to say rejections of the sport, but like I guess you could say that kind of like diminished your appreciation for it, your kind of like enthusiasm for it.
It made me realize that the coaches that everyone warned me about was actually true, and that it wasn't only me, because I knew that in the whole entire country of like the United States, there were other kids that were going through the same exact thing as me, and there were kids that obviously, like, I'm a 5'6" white kid, I'm not going to be in the NBA, but there are definitely kids in the whole country that were on those top high school teams that never got a chance, and their coach never gave them that confidence to like really say like, hey, go out there, play your game. If you make a mistake, don't worry, like we're here for you, we're going to coach you through it.
Well, this definitely goes to like a broader conversation about balance and about sports and about life, I would say, is because this brings up a time where and before I say this, I'm not for that everyone deserves a trophy camp at all. I don't think you're in that camp either. Neither one of us are in that camp.
No.
But that being said, though, I think it comes down to balance. You definitely don't need everyone deserves a trophy, but you also don't want every single mistake somebody makes is like you did a horrible job and you're disgusting and this and that, because you need to build confidence in your athletes. So perfect example. I go to boxing, great boxing club on Staten Island, and shout it out to Marco's Boxing Club, great club. And one day, we'll say a long time ago because we don't want to give any hints as to who this could be, but there was a father in there with his son, and the father was just being really hard on the kid, and the kid seemed honestly like a little bit of an nerdy kid, maybe like not in any negative connotation. I would think I'm a pretty smart guy. Maybe I wouldn't call myself nerdy, but I think intelligence is great. But young kid, middle school, like probably 13, 12, something like that. And the dad was just going like nuts on the kid. Do you want to be the best or not? Like screaming, and the kid didn't even look like he wanted to be there at all. Never mind be the best, and just like screaming and like you're not good enough and blah 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 and like. Just like, I mean, I'm not going to go into the details because then we need the crazies that are on the other extreme. Oh, how horrible the fathers, should be thrown. You get those two that are nuts on the other side. But I mean, just I looked at it and I said to the coach, I said, this is a little bit of a teaching moment for me because I could get to learn from this like one day with my son or with my daughter, like not to treat them this way. You know what I mean? And even the boxing coach was trying to say, you're doing good. But the dad was just like hammering him like, oh, what the F is that? You know what I mean? Just like, oh, like things that I'm not going to repeat because like it's not my place to go repeat like what a father said to his 12-year-old son, but things that were way worse than that are things that I thought were, screaming in the kid's face.
A little
just
inappropriate, right?
Yeah, like it was then my luck. The guy turns to me. Don't you understand what I'm trying to do for my son? When I was sitting on the bench, I said, "Oh shit, don't get me involved in this." I said, "Don't pull me into this. I think you're crazy." But I said to him, I said, "No." I said, "You have a point about like not giving up and stuff and being hard, like for sure. But like at the same time, like you don't want to give the kid like emotional trauma. You got to be careful with it." I said, "There's a balance. You want to build up confidence too." And I think that goes back to what you were saying about just like coaches with their athletes, you don't want to delude people either. Like for example, to bring another UFC analogy, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah,
Ronda Rousey was one of the great grapplers, judo Olympian, breaking everybody's arms for like 13 fights in a row or 12 fights in a row.
Right?
Then she got knocked out by Holly Holm because her coach told her, her coach Edmund told her, "Oh, you're a great striker. Go in there and box with her to prove a point." She wasn't a great striker. She was a pretty friggin' bad striker, a horrible striker, some would even say. She got knocked out. He made her go strike with a world champion in kickboxing. Then she comes back in her return fight a year later, a little more, in 2016, against Amanda Nunes, who has been a dominant champion. She's still the champion for like 4 years in a row now.
Yeah.
She tries to strike with Nunes. Nunes pieces her up at 48 seconds and just puts her out, puts her lights out. So I think you definitely don't want to delude athletes and delude people and tell them there's something that they're not because they'll have a rude awakening and realize that they're not. But at the same time, you want to be fair and you want to have an environment that promotes positive values of never give up and respect and hustle and all those things.
Yeah, it's very interesting because even at that level, when you're the best, people treat you like you're the best, and it gets to you. It really does. And if nobody puts you in your place, like, hey, you're actually really a sucky ass striker, even if a person said that to her, she'd probably be like, no, my coach told me I'm good, so fuck you. And it's very interesting. It's all about the ego. I'm reading that book, New Earth. It's really teaching about, really connecting to yourself and how your thoughts throughout the day really aren't you. You're something different than your thoughts. And your thoughts are really your ego. And your ego was made like thousands of years ago because when that was more of like your fight or flight situation, and it was like it helped you out in that time. But now we really don't need it, and it's just inflated. And guys are worse than girls because girls are more connected biologically to their body than men are. So that's why you see a lot more men getting into fights than women, because women are like, all right, this is probably really stupid. And guys are like, this is fucking stupid. I'm going to prove a damn point right now.
Right. Let's throw it down.
And the ego really kills you because when you're in that egoic state and you can't control your emotions provoke you to do things that you don't want to do. And that's why we make stupid mistakes. That's why we're like, oh, we don't have to fucking do that today because we don't care. Like, we're going to be able to do it tomorrow if we need to. And we just keep putting it off and off and off. And then once she said, like, hey, let's go strike, bro, lights out.
Yeah. And I think there's always a line between, like, speaking of ego, like another balance situation is confidence versus cockiness and arrogance, right? And it's easy for people to sometimes blame them.
Yeah.
To blend them rather, to blend the two. There's a certain line, and it's hard to tell where that is, where you go from being confident, and extreme confidence is good. Like, I'm very confident going into a test if I studied a lot for that test.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I remove doubt and remove fear through action. And I think that's the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
But there's a line between that and, like, arrogance to the point where it's like, oh, I don't need to train. Oh, I don't need to study because I'm just that good. And what happens over time is you see people who are confident, they have to check themselves because if they don't put on those brakes and sometimes like self-reflect, they do fall into a little bit of that pit where it's like a little bit too arrogant, and then all of a sudden things stop working out for you, and it's like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah, the confidence versus cockiness. You see people who are cocky all the time, and they get away with it because they do it against people who are unconfident. And so they think like, oh, I'm super confident, I know what I'm doing, but they're really cocky at that point. They're like, oh yeah, I could do whatever you want me to do. But that's because the other people don't live up to the expectations because they don't have that confidence to even go into that. So like, even with the test, like, they could get lucky on a test. They'll be like, yeah, I could fucking do it. They might be a good test taker, but they might not be smarter than the other person. And you see it as you get older. It's crazy. Like, connecting high school tests to like what you actually become. Bro, I failed a bunch of tests in my life. Like, not in high school, but like definitely in college. I was horrible at fucking tests, and I knew I wasn't a good test taker, especially when we did the SATs. I was like, all right, like, this has nothing to do with knowledge. This is just being able to understand how to take this test and understand how to actually find the answer within that test. And after a while, I was like, all right, like, these tests are not defining me as who I am as a person, because that's kind of like what we go through every time. Even when you get a job, like, it's so crazy. They give you tests, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, why can't I just show you in person? Why can't you just test me with, like, an actual project? Like, hey, how about this? Tell me what you'll do in this project, and as we go through each step, I'm going to say what I like about your thinking, what I don't like about your thinking, how we can improve it. Maybe you give me some cool new, fresh ideas because you're younger and I'm much older, and, like, go through that state. So I think tests are horrible with, like, telling a person, and that really fucks up with living in the moment. Because when you're living in the moment and you get a bad test grade, you're like, okay, I got a bad test grade. Should I have studied better? Should I have studied more? What was the situation? You go through that, you analyze it, and the next time you come back and do it better. But when you're living in that future moment, you're like, oh my God, like, this test defines me. Like, this trigonometry test that I took junior year is going to fuck up my average, and I'm not going to get into the college that I want to. Like, no matter what happens, you're going to get to the point where you were supposed to get to, as long as you believe in it. If you think, like, that test is really going to fuck you up, now you're going to have that mindset that every test is going to fuck you up.
Yeah, that happens too. That's like the opposite thing of the cockiness, but that happens too. Is I see some people, and I hate to say Ronda Rousey, but Ronda Rousey is an example of it. Poor Ronda is getting beat up on this podcast. A lot of people are getting beat up on this podcast, but it's turning out to be one of those things. What can we say?
Yeah, well, you gotta use real life examples.
Gotta use real life,
and I'm sure those people, the people that we talk about today, have gone through these situations
themselves
over and over and over, and until they realize what they're doing and how they're actually making their life worse by going down that direction, they're never gonna fix themselves, and they have to be real with themselves.
We should turn it into the next Tony Robbins, and
we should. Yeah, honestly, like, there is some part of me that I feel like in the future of my life I'm gonna be some type of stand-up speaker. I don't know what type of speaker.
I can see it.
I feel like I'm gonna be spreading whatever knowledge I have, but I have no idea what that knowledge is yet. I've mainly been into, like, when you mentioned balancing, I was very surprised because it's more of like, do you meditate and stuff?
I really don't, to be honest with you. I mean, I guess when I'm in the sauna, sweating, and just, like, not thinking, I guess in a way that's maybe a form of meditation, but I'm not really a big meditator, to be honest with you.
I think meditation is beautiful. I think it is awesome, and I think you really understand your body, and this is, like, how it really helps me with the ego state, even with, there's this thing called pain body as well. So pain body is basically, like, if you do something where, I don't know, say you fucked up with something, you feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
But that's just your pain body like provoking like sadness, and it's just like beating it down.
A chemical reaction, you're saying?
Yeah, I would say like it's more of like a mind mental effect.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't understand that that's your pain body, and your energy is going to overpower somebody else's energy, and now since I'm mad, now you're mad.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just a trickle down effect, and it's very interesting to me. I feel like we don't understand our bodies enough to even go in the world and go through our daily lives. We were never taught any of this stuff. Like, we're taught so much useless shit in school. Like, okay, like I could learn about fucking 3,000 wars that happened. All right, I get it. But what you don't understand is why they keep happening. Why do they keep happening? Because people are just so into themselves. They just don't understand when to stop. They don't understand how to control their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? You teach them about how to control your emotions by noticing them, and how to diminish them after a while over a period of time. But it doesn't take 2 days. It takes like years to get to that point. Or like for me, I feel like I'm doing this a lot quicker because I was never an emotional person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I got mad, and then, like, I don't know, 30 minutes later, I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, I don't stay mad for that long, so I think it was a little bit easier of a transition for myself. But for other people, they stay mad for, like, 3-4 days. Some stay mad for weeks. And it's impossible for them to get past it. So, when you're in that situation where you need to be able to control your emotions, and you don't have any knowledge with it, and nobody teaches you, then you're going to be in a position anywhere you go where your ego is going to take over and your pain body is going to take over, and people are not going to respect you after a while, because now we're turning into adults. When you're 35 and you're still getting mad over bullshit, like, there's still drama in the office. Why is that happening? Not because you're stuck back in high school, but that's because the high school of yourself stuck with you.
Yeah, like they didn't grow as a person. You're saying there was no maturity.
No maturity.
Yeah, I think a lot of that makes sense for sure.
I know that was a lot to take.
No, it was a lot to take. Because we bounced, but no, that makes. I mean, definitely removing emotions, especially from big decisions. Like, you don't want to make important decisions in a ultra emotional state, because they could be mistakes. So you want to try to always be rational and logical in your decision making.
It's tough, especially what you're going to. You're still going for political science, right?
And economics, yeah.
So it's a very harsh field to go into, because a lot of people are going with emotions. A lot of people are going in because you got to know all the policies and shit like that. Because are you still going to be like a lawyer?
We'll see what happens. We're gonna graduate undergrad with the degree in government and economics, so 2 different majors. And minors in business and real estate and international relations.
What? You got real estate in there?
Real estate's in there now.
What?
Real estate's in
How
there.
did you get... Binghamton offers that?
Binghamton doesn't offer that, but a different school offers that, and there's going to be an announcement about that really soon.
Okay.
It's going to be exciting.
We'll hold it off for the listeners.
We'll hold it off. But stay tuned to my Instagram.
Well, what day are you announcing it? Because I'm posting this on Tuesday.
You're posting this on Tuesday? What day is Tuesday?
That is...
This is like the 14th?
Yeah, it's 14th.
I'm gonna probably announce it like the 20th or something.
Okay, so we'll hold it off.
Yeah, I'm trying to lean out for the picture. I got to take a good picture. But
yeah,
big news, everybody. So stay tuned. But that being said, though, it's a really interesting thing. But so we'll see what happens. Whether it's law school, I'll probably end up going to Harvard Law School, to be honest with you, and being a lawyer at some point. But I also want to do I like business too. You know what I mean? So
business is fun.
I think I'll graduate with my degree and maybe work in Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan for something with investing.
You know what's
interesting?
interesting?
Like stocks and investing.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? The guy at Rockham Extreme, the rock climbing
gym
I
gotta go to that place. How much is that?
He is a lawyer who opened up a business.
Yeah, that happens a lot. It helps a lot with business.
It helps so much.
You have to know the intricacies of legal matters as it relates to taxes and accounting and fine, because you got to be careful with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, yo.
No joke.
You could get fucking wrecked if you don't know those rules.
You better know those rules. It's tough. But I gotta go to that rock. Maybe before I go away, we'll go to that rock climbing place.
I go all the time.
What is it? $20 a day? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I got the membership. So
how much is the membership?
It's like it's $65, but if you do it every recurring month, it's $55.
$55 for the month?
For the month, yeah. So it's like $2 a day.
That's not even that bad.
No, not at all.
$55
that's how I look at it. Like, when I look at it, people are like, oh my God, it's $55 a month.
Yeah,
And you're
it's
like, well, I mean, how often are you going? I try to go like 2 to 3 times a week because I do, like if you notice, I got that pull-up bar over there.
Right. Oh, that's good. I didn't. Is that new? I haven't noticed.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
that's
new.
pretty fresh. Look
Yeah,
at that.
my friend's dad built that for me.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
sick. Yeah, so like, so that's the vest over there that I use on the floor, and I use a 32-pound vest. So I do like, I guess you could call it weight training with calisthenics.
Calisthenics is good.
And then I also do the rock climbing, which is different, which is more explosive. Like you gotta really like propel yourself to the next thing, and I do like a lot of muscle ups there and stuff like that.
Do you have like workout equipment there too, or no? Not really. Like weights and like treadmills.
There's a treadmill. There's a bike.
There's a treadmill, a bike, rock climbing,
and
no sauna or sauna. No sauna.
Yeah, so like it's still very new.
It's interesting though. That's an interesting.
Yeah, I don't need all that extra.
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
Like, I'm not really into weights, to be honest.
You know why I'm asking? Because all these gyms, like they have these things now, and it's too late now. But next time I'm back for like a month for the winter break, maybe I'll do it. Is because all these gyms, there's an installment fee, and then there's a startup fee, and then there's a fee to freeze it. Like I said to even the gym by me, Powerhouse, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Powerhouse. It used to be $20 a month in cash. You go there, you're good. I never went there. I went there as a guest once for $10 for the day. But now you got to do a startup fee, $200 the first month, and this and that. Like, what the hell is all this nonsense? Like, you can't – a college kid coming back from wherever they go – can't find a gym to go to. Everything is a membership fee and a freezing fee.
Yeah, my friend went through that too. He's like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, because one of my friends went and we were in the group chat and he's like, oh, did you go to LA today? And he's like, nah, I don't want to buy a month for LA right now because it's really expensive. There's no point. Like, I'll get it when I come back from school in May.
Yeah.
So like, it's really expensive, especially like. Fitness is definitely on the incline of like
pricing.
Going into people's lives now. So now gyms know how effective going to exercise really is. So now they're just ramping everything up because they know more people are going to come. They know that, it's all spread, especially now jobs, what they're doing is really cool. Since I work at a gym, I know like a little bit more about it. They have these things where if you could connect to your insurance with your job, they pay for like a certain amount. So like this woman came in, she's like, they'll pay for like half of the membership as long as I go 15 days every single month.
So the gym, the job, you're saying the company that someone works
the
for
company will somehow like through the insurance get them to pay because like mentally and physically like it helps them and it makes them a better employee.
That's an interesting thing. Yeah, I mean, working out's important. And I think that
yeah. How long have you been boxing?
Boxing has been on and off for me. Boxing, it's like I honestly started when I was like maybe 11 or 12. Like by the time I was wrapping up with Taekwondo.
And it's hard to stay consistent like with going to school and shit like that.
Yeah, with going to school, so I did it for about like a year when I was younger. And I did it, like on and off throughout the years with mainly with DeMarco's Boxing Club. Like one other place or two other places, but mainly with DeMarco's. And then senior year of high school, I did consistent for basically a year. Like I did it from the summer before senior year through senior year. Cool. And that was when I would say I was in really good shape. So far, that has been the period of time where I was in the best shape.
Like your peak?
I would never say it's my peak. The peak is when I'm in a coffin. That'll be the peak. The peak is right before I die. That's like the ideal at like 100 years old. But
I feel you. Yeah, I have the same type of thing.
But that being said, though, I mean, it certainly was, I would say so far has been the most fit I've been. So far has been a quote-unquote prime in terms of being in shape. I want to get back in shape. I actually gained too much weight after high school because it was just busy with things. Busy with work, busy with internships, busy with the radio show.
Yeah, your foot was through the pedal at that point.
Through the pedal. and then after that, then, you go away to college for the first time. The freshman 15 turns into the freshman 20. So I blew up. The heaviest I was like 180. Right now I'm like 171, so I'm down about 9 pounds. And senior year of high school, I was like a lean, muscular, like 140. Wow. Yeah, I was lean. So I want to come back down to 140 and compete in boxing.
That's cool.
At the 141-pound division. So I'm really considering that pretty strongly. So that's why I'm training again now.
Yeah, you post that video. Your hands look quick.
Which one? The one with the punching dummy?
Yeah.
Did you see the little head kick too?
Yeah.
With the cup on top.
Yeah, clean right off the foot.
I call that the insurance policy. If you're losing the boxing match, you spin around with the head kick. That's
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
But Yeah. So boxing and martial arts has always been something that I think has kept me grounded, and has kept me disciplined and strong, and it's always something that the periods of time where that is in my life, I feel like it's always a better period of time. I think that it's essential for me to keep in some type of martial arts, whether it be boxing or taekwondo or kickboxing or if I ever get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I did it for like a month at the UFC gym, and I liked it. I mean, a month, how much could you learn? But in terms of like even like the wrestling, like now I know how to like properly shoot on a couple of different takedowns and stuff. And it's good to know these things, because if you get into a fight, God forbid you have to defend yourself, and you're up there with someone who's beating you in the striking, because that can happen. You need to have an alternative. Do I fall back on my kicks instead of punching? Do I shoot in on a takedown? So it's But martial arts has always given me great discipline, and I've always had an appreciation for it.
Yeah, wait. So I know we spoke a little bit about this before, but I don't think I really got like your whole thing. So since you're really ambitious, like how do you balance everything out?
I would say it's still a work. It's always a work in progress. I would say I definitely lean in to quote unquote work. I wouldn't really call it work, because I like a lot of what I do. Like, to me, like school, I mean, it's certainly work, but it's not like some people are doing majors. It's like they don't like them. It's like, I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, you were saying before how you like history and stuff like that.
like people like that have to study. Like in college, I study sometimes 3 hours a day, sometimes 4 hours a day, sometimes literally like 10 hours a day, and it's like nothing but studying. Like, it really depends, and I'm only going to have to raise the bar further from here. But that being said, what was your question? I forgot.
How do you balance
How do I balance it? Honestly, I lean in more towards the work. Just in general, I lean in more towards the work. I go really hard during the semesters, and periods of time like this, I do ease up, because I recognize, like, for example, last night I was working, because I'm writing a novel now. I've been writing it since the summer.
That's sick.
Yeah, it's really a novella, because the novel's like 80,000 words. The novella's like 30 through like 50 or something like that. So it's like a short novel. But I'm going to get it traditionally published. I'm going to have to go through the process of getting an editor, getting an agent. The first book was self-published. It still became a bestseller in its category on Amazon.
That's sick. Did you make money off of that?
I made money. I mean, we sold 500 copies throughout the course of like a few months. So it was, you make like a little less than $2 a copy, because we were charging like $6. So it's not like I was making like thousands of dollars, but I made like almost. I made
it's definitely a start of another source of income.
It's just the start of another source of income. So I had that. Cool. It's pretty cool. And then the novel I want to do traditionally published, though, because I don't want to sell 500 copies. I really want to get the story out there, and I really want to sell at least a few thousand copies. I want to get it traditionally published, so that's going to be a process. I'm coming towards the end of the story. Basically, without giving too much away, it follows this character, Ethan, who is on this journey to save his hometown, to save his island.
Yeah.
There's this monster that has destroyed every civilization throughout human history. Every civilization. So they have to go out and find the secret weapon that is the only thing that could kill the monster. I don't want to give away names and too much plot, but it's really executed. It's done well. I'm not going to give away a lot, but basically the main character is a young man. He's 19 years old, and he loses a lot. A lot of people around him die. He fails to save his people. He fails to save his country, and he has to come back and return and save the survivors and save who's left. So it's a pretty interesting thing. The way it's done, the way it follows him throughout, I don't really do it justice by just talking about it.
That seems interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story. And it takes place in like kind of this realm of like, it's kind of a thriller. It's definitely action and adventure. It's a little bit of like fantasy, because like, there's this villain who's existed for an eternity. So, it's an interesting thing. But so anyway, I was working on that last night, and I finished up with the chapter. And it's fun too, because the chapters, I don't make them drag. Like, I make it boom, 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 like a book where it's fun to read.
Yeah, where it's like action,
yeah,
little details done.
Yeah, like not rushed and certainly not meaningless action, but like it's just it's a fun pace. You know what I mean? The story, but definitely, it's at a high speed where it's not like some novels are just too long.
So long.
There's very few long fiction books that I would be willing to read, to be honest. I used to like Harry Potter as a kid. Maybe one or two others come to mind. But like if I'm going to sit down and read like a long, 100,000 word book, it's going to be nonfiction. It has to be. It can't be. I'm not going to spend 7 or 8 hours reading a fiction book. It has to either be self-improvement or history or business or a biography of something interesting. It can't just be like, Wonder Woman and Cinderella and Superman. I don't know what to tell you. But so anyway, the reason how we got into this though, the little plug for the book. I thought I spit on the microphone. Oh, I'm sorry. It's disgusting. But that being said, though, I don't know. Maybe we'll edit that out later. Should we edit that out, or we shouldn't?
No, I'm
edit?
keeping everything.
We'll keep it in. All right, screw it. We'll keep it in then. It is what it is. We all spit. What could I say? But that being said, though, so I had finished like writing like a chapter or two of that book last night, and it was like 4 a.m. and I was tired, and I was like, you know what? Like, I want to watch Netflix. Like, Six Underground looks pretty good on Netflix. I don't know if you saw the trailers for it.
No, I haven't.
It's some movie that just came out.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? Like, I know I'm not going to be able to do this during the semester for like a 5-month block. Like, it's like once in a while, but it's very hard to like enjoy something like that.
Yeah.
Let me just go in my bed and hang out for an hour and watch some of this movie. And I did, and I treated myself to it. Yeah. So I guess there has to be a balance in the sense that that there's going to be certain time periods where you ease up and refresh. Yes. And I'm getting to focus more on, even though I'm not doing the best I can with the dieting and working out more and like things, it's just slowing things down and spending time with friends and catching up with projects like the novel, because I can't work on the novel during the semester because there's no time.
It's impossible.
So it's literally impossible. Like I think I worked on it for like 2 weekends in 4 months. Like really not much work on it. So you have to also like. Like now it's like I'm taking a class from University of Pennsylvania Law online. It's like a free class about like American law, like the foundations of it, to kind of see how interested I am in it and try to get a feel for like
to see if you keep doing it.
If I would want to keep doing it, you know what I mean? So like you get to do certain things like that, and of course watching sports and those things too, like UFC and MMA and. I find a balance. But when I go hard because my philosophy has always been that I work harder than everyone else, and that's how I beat everyone else. Because like I think that when it comes down to it, I'm just willing to do more, to go through more, to be the best, and I don't think other people are willing to meet me there. And it's like I welcome the competition, but so far,
you think competition can destroy people?
Some people that can't handle it. Yeah, I don't think it's for everybody. Like,
but you think like. More the fact that, like, how you're
I think it could build people, too,
You're
though.
so ambitious about it. Because this is my perspective about it. If you're so competitive, like, I think with everything you start becoming competitive with, and I don't think it's healthy to become competitive with everything in life. Even, like, say you publish that book, and another person that publishes a book. Now,
that's competitive for sure. That's competitive. I'm beating them in sales. That's competitive.
And it's just something where it's like, okay, it could be good where you're competitive because you're trying to improve your sales of your book. But are you appreciating the fact that other people are trying to do the same thing? Are you trying to downgrade them because you're trying to upgrade yourself?
No, I think that my philosophy has always been, and it's going to sound a little arrogant, I'm the best. I'm not the best because you have to believe you're the best. I know I'm the best, but I'm at certain things, not at everything, but at certain things.
100%, yeah.
It's because I work really hard and I'm that good. I don't have to have someone else be crap to be the best, to be better than them. I like when somebody is on that level. I like when I do get that competition a little bit, because that competition, when someone finally gets on my level and meets me there, that makes me better.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people that are competitive that like, so you're saying that, hey, like, I like to be competitive. If you're going to be competitive with me, I'm going to be competitive with you.
And
but there are some people who are just naturally competitive that they don't appreciate the other person's work, and they're just like, yeah, you suck.
Yeah,
and
well,
like,
yeah.
And like back to the confidence thing, it just kills their confidence just because they're like, oh, this person who's good at it is killing my confidence right now. Like, I just started.
Yeah.
And they don't appreciate, like, obviously you got to start from somewhere. So say you're starting now with your books. Now this is your second book in. Say you keep writing books as your life goes on. Say you're up to like 50 books in, I don't know,
That's a lot of books. I don't think I could do 50 books in 20
years. A lot
years.
of books, but who knows? Maybe you become an author.
Right.
And, you know, now
I would say, if I had to guess, I would say probably like 7 to 10 books in my lifetime, I would say.
All right.
That's probably like a fair guess.
Let's go 15. Let's push it a little.
All right, let's push it. Why
Let's
not? We'll push it.
You got 15
we could push it.
books, and now somebody who is your competitor, say you're still writing in government, and now they just came out of college, you're going to appreciate their first book because you're going to be like, I remember when I wrote my first book. But a lot of different competitors are going to look at that book and say, this book sucks.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even be on the same level
For
as
sure.
me.
Well, that's part of the game, I would say, though. I think that's part of the game. I think that's why they say the saying goes like something like, don't compare your day 1 to someone's day like 500 or something like that. You know.
And we do that a lot.
We do that a lot, but I think you have to just, if you're going to get in a competitive field, you have to be able to handle the pressure. And I think some people just can't handle the pressure. And I think, you know, it's unfortunate, but some people, and like, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, some people aren't designed for intense competition. Like, not everyone can be, you know, writing a best-selling book. Not everyone can be the top of their class. Like, some people would rather just like, and there's really nothing wrong with it. Chill out, you know what I mean? Get a degree in something that they're cool with it, whatever, but they don't have to be the best in it, and go get a job that they like enough to do it, and you know, and have a life outside of that. And a lot of people do that, and I'm not knocking that, but the pressure and the competition, I would say, is certainly not for everybody. And I think there's certain people who don't belong in the arena, who lie to themselves and end up there, and I think that's not a good thing.
I think so too. I don't think competition is for everyone. I'm competitive, but I'm not like super competitive.
Well, you have to be competitive in your field.
Yeah.
So, right? Like, for example, like if I got myself like back into really good shape, or even now, like, I like to work out. Like, if we worked out together, it would be friendly. But I'm sure we get a little competitive. Who's lifting more? Who's running further? Who's running faster? Who's doing more pull-ups? Like, and that's like something. But like, I'm not sure about you, but like, if I'm not going to go compete with someone playing guitar, like, I don't know what I'm doing with playing guitar, you know, so you have to know what you're good at. You can't expect that you're going to be competitive in everything and be the best in everything. Like, I certainly can't go into, you know, actually, maybe I'd be pretty good at it, but like, I can't go right now not studying anything about architecture and go try to win an architecture competition with someone who goes to like Drexel for architecture. You know, it just wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, definitely with the competition. I totally understand what you're coming from with like where you are in your life with what you are competitive with. Because once you said like working out, I was like, that shit I'm competitive.
You see, you have to love it to be competitive.
Like, once you mentioned running, I was like, oh my gosh, if somebody wanted to like race me and we had to train for it, I would become so competitive.
Yeah. Well, look at the marathon. Yeah. Right? You had to fucking get really competitive with that.
Exactly. The main thing though is really getting competitive with yourself, because I feel like we compare ourselves to different people, and everyone's different, and everyone's capabilities are definitely different. So if you're gonna be comparing yourself to somebody else, you might kill yourself with confidence and like be like, oh man, I'm not that good. But in reality, you're really good. It's just that your body type and whatever you're going into
can't go at that speed.
Yeah, it's not meant to do that. So that's what a lot of people have to realize, that you be competitive with yourself, and then when you find a good match with yourself, when you find somebody who could push you a little bit more, get competitive.
Well, I think you always want it to be about you. I think you always want it to be that you're, even if you're at a very high level, you still want to be competing with yourself. Like, you want to be so good, make yourself so prepared, get so ready, train so much, study so much, whatever the case may be, that you're multiple levels above the second place person.
Definitely.
And that's what happened with me with the presidency in Tottenville. You know, I was running against two valedictorians, athletes that were popular, a girl who ended up becoming some model and does all types of modeling in the city. You know, all these like interesting groups of people. Like,
but
really,
you wanted it. That was your.
I went for that.
lane.
Oh, that was my lane, and they knew it. But I worked so hard that it wasn't even about. I wasn't worried. Oh, I'm competing with this one, or oh, I'm competing with that one. To me, it was Like, let's just go. This is mine. Like, you're not gonna
Yeah.
take this from me. You know what I
Exactly,
mean? And that's
yeah.
how you have to get with certain things. It's not about the competition. It's almost like you're going against like blank faces. Like it's like it doesn't matter who the competition is.
Yeah.
Like, put them in front of me and I will conquer and I will beat them regardless of who it is. I don't care if you put Elon Musk in front of me or Donald Trump or Oprah Winfrey. I'm better than all of them on my best day, and that's just that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good quote.
You gotta be.
That's a good quote.
That's gonna be great when you're running for president. It's gonna be. I don't care who you put me up against. Dash Joe Silverstein.
It's the truth. You can't get, because if you're really that confident in yourself, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just gotta be confident.
You got to be
But
confident.
Anyway, how long do you think we've been going for?
I would say about I got a text. I checked it. We were going for about an hour when I checked my text. So we're probably at an hour and 10 minutes now.
Well, yeah. Now we're at an hour.
Oh, we're at an hour now.
Yeah, because we had to
Pause it.
Pause it. and
Right,
shit
right.
like that.
That's right.
But yeah,
People are getting some nice behind the scenes information.
behind the
now.
scenes.
I
yeah.
spit on the microphone. We're off with the time.
You already know behind
That's
the
it.
scenes that everything doesn't always work out. We always have some technical difficulties.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we got to end it off with a fact. Do you have a fact for us, or do you want me to share another fact? Anything crazy, bizarre?
Well, I definitely don't have any bizarre facts. I'll leave it to you for the facts. That's your lane. I'll leave it to you for the facts.
All right. So a little geography for you. Australia is larger in diameter than Pluto.
Really?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But the crazy thing about Australia is that literally everyone lives on the coast because inside of it it's way too hot. So.
Right. Aren't there all types of crazy animals in Australia too? All and,
Yeah.
insects and stuff that are poisonous.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of things in Australia that I heard about.
Yeah, it's a lot. So it's very funny because the people there are probably the most similar Canada to the United States and stuff like that. But the way that they live with outdoorsy shit, it's more of Africa. Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know too much about either place, but I do want to travel internationally though. I definitely want to go to Italy and Paris and Morocco. There's a bunch of cities that I want to hit and see.
Me too.
Australia is not really too much on the list. Nothing against Australia, but it's never been one of those ones that I'm dying to
it's
run
beautiful
there.
there though.
I heard it's really hot though, the climate.
Yeah, it's like Arizona.
Yeah,
Can't get hotter than Arizona.
I was just in
What are you
Florida.
gonna
It was
drop
70.
dead then?
Yeah, I was in Florida and it was so hot in Florida. I was
I'm
there over
sure,
the
yeah.
break. It was crazy. But anyway, Nick, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, Joe Silverstein.
We'll talk soon. Thank
Yes,
you.
of course. When you're back from college, after
Yes.
your big announcement, we'll get you on
Absolutely.
again.